everyone, and welcome to the Doc Huddle, your gateway to an in-depth connection between sports medicine and the latest events in sports, fantasy, and betting. Today's show is brought to you by the Health and Wellness Depot. Unlock the power of well-being. I'm Dr. Mikey B. With me, as always, CJ, the sports enthusiast, Dr. MJB, the legend. Gentlemen, very exciting. Today starts the 2025 NFL season.
What's going on, guys? Yeah, there's a lot, probably so much that I don't even know if we're going to hit it all in one show. There's lots going on in free agency. I did want to start off by mentioning 3 big contract extensions, and I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that. First one I want to talk to MJB about is J.C. Horn, 4-year, $100 million, extension. He's a cornerback for the Carolina Panthers. If you guys don't know, MJB is a huge Panthers fan, and I want to get your thoughts on that.
So, what's up, guys? How's it going? So my initial thoughts, man, I had mixed feelings about the signing. I wanted us to re-sign him, but to
Is
pay
it because
him
of spending up front with being in a rebuild, or because that was my opinion, but
that's not even the issue. It's just his health. Like when J.C. Horn plays, he's a top corner in this league. He's a stud. He's a stud. Great work ethic. I put him top 5 corner when a healthy dude in the league. He just last year was his only season where he played a full season, and to reward someone with that was a little not something that I would want to do. But I mean, I get it financially, right? Because like if you prolong the situation, then he has another healthy season next year, and then you pay him, it's even worse. So I get why paying him that, but to make him the top highest paid corner in the league I was scratching my head a bit. And I love JC, I do, but health has limited him recently, and hopefully that's not the case going forward, right? Hopefully he gets a handle on that. But that was the only hesitation I have with that signing. Otherwise, I think that he warrants all that kind of money. I think that he's stud.
It makes sense. I only brought up the money being, because your team's in such a rebuild, and we talked about on previous episodes, like, would we want to?
Who's in a rebuild? Who's in a rebuild?
A lot of teams, including Carolina.
Oh my goodness.
But I know that we discussed that. You didn't want to sign X, Y, and Z players because they're in a rebuild to such big contracts. So that was why I was, really interested to hear what your thoughts on that.
No, I think it's a foundational piece. And if we have time later in the show, I'll kind of dive down into why I think the move made a lot of sense. But overall, I mean, I don't hate it, right? Like, it's not like I'm here saying that, oh man, we should have never given him that money. No, he warrants all that. And from your standpoint, I think it makes sense to get bigger contracts when your rookie QB is still under his rookie contract, right? So I would have hated it if JC got that money and we already paid Bryce. It'd be like, Jesus, man, we don't have money. But in all honesty, when guys sign contracts like this, it frees up money early on. I think we were able to gain like $10 million in cap space this year just by re-signing them to that long-term deal. So it kind of worked out for us in that essence. So
yeah, and you guys aren't really like you didn't make any other big name signings. You almost did, which we'll get to shortly. But
we'll hit that.
You didn't. So as a result, put the money on the sure thing that you guys know if he stays healthy, he's going to be that upper echelon type corner in the league. And I think with that being said, I think the contract makes sense. Now, if you guys were flaunting money all over the place this offseason, maybe not, but you haven't. Instead, you guys brought in guys like Dan Chizina, wide receiver, 1-year contract. Who's this?
No. So I will say this.
You re-signed him. Excuse me, you re-signed. So that's why I thought maybe because I don't know. Do you know who he is?
No, I will say this. So Monday night, I was in a state of distress, and I ended up calling you because I felt like after we lost on the bidding for Milton Williams, and he ended up going to the Patriots, I was decimated, man. I was in a dark place.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
I didn't know what to do. I was fumbling between either drinking an abundance amount of alcohol or call Mike so I can try to kind of gain my sanity back. But I thought about it some more. I listened to a couple podcasts, and I think overall, one or two things happen. If we sign Milton, I don't think we have enough money to get quality depth pieces. Last year, our biggest issue, there was no depth behind our starters at the D line. And I think Dan Morgan kind of took light of that and was like, you know what, this offseason, I'm going to get not the best, but quality players and also provide depth. So we ended up signing like, I want to say 5 or 6 interior D linemen, you know what I mean? And that way you always have fresh legs. At least they're quality players. They aren't household names that we're accustomed to hearing. You know, they're not a Milton Williams, but if you sign Milton Williams, who the hell is behind him? So at first I hated it. I was like, oh, this is awful. But then looking at it from that perspective, I think it makes sense. The guys that we brought in are either great at run stopping and terrible pass rushers, or the opposite, or they're great pass rushers and awful at run blocking. But in essence, I guess you're alternating, right? First and second down. All right, we'll be bringing the run stopper guys in obvious passing situations. We'll kind of have alternatives to bring in. So I don't know. I changed my opinion slightly up when I heard that. I was like, all right, you know, and you know, as fans of teams that aren't that good, you got to convince yourself otherwise, right? They make the signing, we don't like it, and then a week later, well, you know, it's not that bad.
But the other thing too, you know, there's a couple of strong interior defensive lineman candidates coming out in this year's draft, which we're not talking about the draft today, but that's something that the Panthers might want to look into as well if they need, you know, even more talent at that position. But like you said, I think that they're trying to fill those holes with signing a bunch of guys and letting guys compete.
Yeah, for sure. And being on the topic of D-line in general, 2 players that got big contract extensions that I wanted to mention, Myles Garrett, 4-year, $160 million, and Max Crosby, 3 years, $106 million. I think they're both great signings. Both players are amazing, but, you know, I'll let you take the floor on this. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Max Crosby one I really like just because that's a guy who he's the face of that franchise right now.
100%.
And, you know, he, I think, provides some level of stability. We discussed this in previous episodes, how much we love his work ethic. We love what he stands for. So this is a really good as they're trying to reshape this organization, bringing in those big pieces like Coach Carroll and some other pieces. You have Tom Brady now, who's going to be helping out in this rebuild. So having him there as a staple, I think is really awesome. Myles Garrett I found interesting because he wants out. It's like,
yeah.
No, you don't. Not if we're going to throw all this money at you again, and that's what happened. So listen, there comes a point in time in an athlete's career where he's at the peak now where I don't think we're going to continue to see him ascend, right? Like we're seeing what Myles Garrett is. He's one of the best, if not the best, edge rusher in the league. And then over the course of this new contract, when he completes it, he will no longer be that upper echelon top number 1 guy. I think it's going to start to come down. So when he's asking for this trade, I'm thinking, he's looking for the contender. He wants to go get a ring while he's at his absolute best. He doesn't want to do that. I can't blame him. I mean, $160 million. I mean, shit, like
$160 million and
123.5 guaranteed. Like, I get it.
160 reasons to change your mind, right?
Yeah. So, right. So, you know, you take the money now, and then when at the end of this contract, that's when you're going to see him try to sign with a contender and go get a ring at the back end of his career. Because I don't see the Cleveland Browns doing it anytime soon. But hey, good for him. They got themselves a great player. I just find it very interesting with how the Cleveland Browns are making certain moves, not making other moves. And let's just go pay Myles Garrett everything we got in the bank when we still have to pay a guy who is not even going to be suiting up this year due to an Achilles injury, who was a waste of money, an excess amount of money. So it's like where they're allocating their funds, I find very interesting.
Yeah, and, you know, we're making a transition here into the next segment of players with quarterbacks. And while we're on this topic, he's referring to Deshaun Watson getting the $230 million contract from the Browns a few years ago. And believe it or not, one of the hottest free agents on the market, Russell Wilson, he's going to meet with the Cleveland Browns tomorrow. He's also going to be meeting with the New York Giants on Friday. and his future might be decided by, you never know, the end of the week or next week. But it's interesting to see how the Browns are potentially going to bring in Russell Wilson when they have Deshaun Watson and all these other crazy contracts, and they're sitting at the number 2 spot in the
And they
draft.
still might draft a quarterback.
Like they're sitting at the number 2 spot in the draft. It's almost like to save some money and to, allocate these funds. Drafting would be good, but drafting would be good, getting a rookie quarterback. But what do you guys think of that and the fit with? It sounds like they're trying to bring Russell Wilson in.
So before I even get to the Browns' moves, aside from Deshaun Watson, let's just stick with Deshaun Watson. The Browns are owning up and they're admitting that they made the mistake.
Yeah,
right.
They're moving on.
And what they ended up doing was, and I don't know the exact numbers, but the last thing I saw in terms of Deshaun Watson was that they elected to pay him the majority of his money now. And he restructured his contract. They front loaded the contract, pay him majority of his money. And I think they are eligible they have to pay him this year and next, and they can move on from him.
Okay.
So what that dollar amount is, I don't know. It's absurdly high, but they're just like, hey, we'll give you your money if you just next year you let us get off the hook and you walk. And I think both sides agree to that. So with that being said, they can't sit here and wait for that. They still have to make moves. They have a good roster. We all agreed prior to the season even starting, like when we were looking at the draft before, we all agreed that the Browns have a ready roster. So I think that the fact that they're trying to make moves to still be relevant while unfortunately paying Deshaun Watson I think it's the only move you can make. You can't sit here and wait until he's off the books and then go for a QB. Like, we're in a day and age where they don't wait for guys anymore. Especially you see it with rookies. So yeah, I think they owned up to it. They're trying to get him his money, and
the sitting at number 2 as the Cleveland Browns in the NFL draft make you change your mind on I want to sign a veteran versus I'm going to draft someone?
No, because I'm going to look at this from the Giants' perspective as well, and you can look at this way with the Raiders. The Raiders just signed Geno Smith, and I still think that if a potential guy is there at number 1, you still take him. All 3 of these teams are in a position where I don't think any team is a contender next year. I really don't. And so as a result, you need to keep on throwing darts at that dartboard until you finally get that bullseye for your quarterback. I mean, take it from us. Since Eli Manning has been benched and then he wound up leaving the New York Giants and retiring, it's been an absolute horror show carousel. We've seen one contending season, which was a fluke in Brian Dable's first year. Since then, we can't do anything. So the Browns are not going to the promised land. The Raiders are not going to go to the promised land. Even though the Browns might have the strongest of those 3 teams with that roster, I think, you get this veteran quarterback and then, do what the Vikings did, right? They had Sam Darnold. They made a run into the playoffs and then they failed, but they still got their quarterback in the JJ McCarthy. And I think that if you're one of those teams, you have to do that this year if you have conviction on one of these rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I agree with that, Mike. But you have to, and I agree with everything you're saying, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
Remember, we spoke about this. If you're not good enough to make it to the promised land, you have to put some kind of product on the field. Yeah. We know what Deshaun Watson can't do. CANT can't do. So with them going out and getting potentially Russell Wilson, at least you're competitive and buy yourself time until you actually find that quarterback. So you still have to keep drafting. You have to draft, sign until you hit. And then when you hit, you can start to make other moves. But I agree with Mike. You got to have a short-term plan to be competitive and a long-term plan, hopefully, to find your guy and, eventually get to the promised land.
Yeah. And, I mean, we've hit on Russell Wilson quite a bit. The other hottest name in terms of quarterback would be Aaron Rodgers. That's, a free agent. I want to know from you guys, I know a lot's going to develop over the next week or so. We're really looking at the Steelers, the Giants, potentially the Browns now, and even a slim chance of the Vikings. Where do you see the best fit for these 2 quarterbacks in Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I want to jump in there and like we were talking off air, which I know we don't like to try to do too much because we want to, we want to save it for the show. But
Disappointed, boys.
yeah, I know. So I know. Listen, we got into conversation, couldn't stop, and we put the brakes on. Like, we were seeing a lot of the reports from Adam Schefter, from Dan Orlovsky on ESPN. The scenario is really interesting because if you are looking at these two quarterbacks that you just mentioned, Aaron Rodgers has now basically met with the Steelers and the Giants, and he's taking time. We don't know how much time, but he's taking time to make his decision.
Yeah.
So in the interim, now you got the Giants and the Browns that are interviewing Russell Wilson, like Christopher said, tomorrow and Friday, respectively. So if that's the case, like these teams that can't necessarily just wait on Aaron Rodgers, or do they? Like, do you have enough conviction in Russell Wilson to give him that big offer? Like you said, you think that he might even get that big offer tomorrow from the Browns off air. And then if that's the case, he doesn't even make it to the interviews on Friday. And now the Giants might be stuck waiting for Aaron Rodgers. And if he doesn't sign with them and he goes to the Vikings or the Steelers, now the Giants are completely out of luck. Or do the Giants say, okay, let's try to get Russell Wilson? This is a really interesting scenario.
Yeah, a lot of the times when players fly off season to make these deals and the teams love them, basically where I was going with that is they don't let the players leave, right? Like they try to keep him there to sign him as much as possible. His first visit's the Browns. It can go either way. And then again with the Giants, so out of one of those two teams, he might get signed by the end of the week. Anything's possible.
Yeah. I mean, respectfully to the Browns and Giants, if I'm Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, this is it. Like I'm done after this. I could be done after this. I need to find the best situation where I can win. Money's not really shouldn't. I'm not gonna say really shouldn't be a driving force at this point. They both made a ton of money. They both are Super Bowl champions. They both were top end quarterbacks at when they're in their prime. So like. But then again, you see, people sign for money all the time. I just would think that they would be leaning towards either the Steelers or Vikings for either situation, since those are the most competitive teams out of the four.
How do you feel if you're Russell Wilson right now, knowing that the Steelers are not signing you because they're trying to see if they sign Aaron Rodgers?
I think
does that completely push your relationship with Russell Wilson?
No, I don't think so, dude. Because it's one of those like. Yeah, I get that you have to weigh all your options. I can't be mad at you because like this is a business, man. Like you guys have to make a decision, however you see fit. Even though I think I'm the better fit if I'm Russell Wilson, I don't, I can't, I don't know. I just don't give up a winning situation because I feel some kind of way that they didn't sign me. And instead I signed with a team that's not going to really be competing this year. That's how I view it, honestly. I mean, I don't see it any other way, but what do you think, Mike?
I completely agree with you. For some reason, I just don't see, I just don't think that and I think that the only way that Russell Wilson ends up back on the Steelers is because there's no offer from either the Browns. They don't get Aaron Rodgers and they have nobody else. Like they don't have anyone else to go to. And then at that point, Russ might already have signed. I think that one of these teams is going to pay him more than he should be getting paid. I know we went into arguments about this in previous shows about how much they're going to throw at Russell Wilson. I think that he's going to get paid more than he should, and he's going to take it because I think that the market right now, it's just so weird. I don't see Aaron Rodgers going to any other team other than the Steelers or the Vikings. I really think that he ends up on one of those two teams because the other two teams are not appealing.
Correct.
Like you said, you want to go. It's like if you're looking at the like that, look at when Aaron Rodgers has to make this decision. He just got berated in New York after just not being able to perform for the New York Jets. Are you down to stay in the New York media and go to the New York Giants, which is another franchise where, I mean, historically maybe the fans aren't as brutal, but like you're still in that New York media and the roster is not good, guys. Our roster is not good. We're not going to win now. So what are you doing by signing there? If you go over the Steelers, they just invested in getting DK Metcalf. All right, that was a big free agency, or not free agency, excuse me, a big offseason pickup for them, making that trade with the Seahawks. They got an amazing defense. That they'll never go 500.
I mean,
They got Mike Tomlin.
If I'm the Vikings, I am signing Aaron Rodgers because JJ McCarthy's never taken a snap, and he can sit a year behind him and grow.
That's the best spot for him. I love that.
That's what I think is the best place for him. But we'll see what happens.
I think Russell Wilson, though, to answer your question, I think he's going to sign with the Browns. I think that the Cleveland Browns have a roster and a coaching staff that I think it's on thicker ice than the New York Giants. And I think that there's a little bit more stability at that position. That they're moving on from Deshaun Watson. I think that even though they might draft a quarterback, I still feel like there's a little more stability in that job. Whereas in New York,
I think
that coaching staff could be out right after this year.
That's what I was going to say.
And now it's like, I just signed a 3-year deal, and now I'm gone with the new regime.
Yeah, the problem with the New York Giants is that they're going to have to give guaranteed money, because how else can you structure a contract if these guys get let go?
You have to. The New York Giants, that job is not appealing at all.
Yeah, how do you keep players? I mean,
I really don't see how the Giants are going to sign a well-vetted quarterback. I mean, and believe it or not, report coming in from CJ, the sports enthusiast, off air, Joe Flacco might be one of the alternatives for the New York Giants. That's where we're at, ladies and gentlemen.
Jesus Christ.
That's where we're at. That's where we're at. Okay.
No, listen.
See that look of disgust that he just had?
My gosh. Bro, Joe probably has a 6-pack in his hand right now.
Oh, yeah. Not on his stomach, in his hand, okay?
My goodness.
Rough. Bro,
listen, going into the season with that guy being your starting quarterback is tough, man. It's tough.
Well, I'm sure that our viewers had enough of the Carolina Panthers and New York Giants. So to pivot here, some of the really big names and quarterbacks, just to wrap up the quarterback segment. We've got Geno Smith signing to the Raiders, Sam Darnold to the Seahawks, Justin Fields to the Jets, Daniel Jones to the Colts, who's now going to be competing against Anthony Richardson for the starting job.
Love it.
And Matthew Stafford remains a Ram. So I think we've touched on that in our last segment, but just wanted to mention that is also finalized. What do you guys think?
I have a question.
I wonder if it's the same one I got. Let's hear it.
The Seahawks. I just
that's what I'm saying.
I just don't understand, man.
What are you doing?
Seahawks are absolutely falling
apart. What
are
you doing?
I personally think Geno is better than Sam Darnold. So you give up Geno, and I was like, all right, they're in rebuilding mode. I get that. And then you go sign Sam Darnold. And I'm like, what is going on here? I don't understand.
Well, hold on. I will say how you hear different things. I heard something different today on the Geno Smith signing with the Raiders, that he took less money from the Raiders than from the Seahawks to go play with Pete Carroll.
I believe that. I mean, that makes sense.
They did not offer him enough to convince him, even though it was more. He took less than go over there to Las Vegas, which I found very interesting. But can you blame him? His whole receiving squad just got let out the door.
Listen, I think they're internally, these players in Seattle don't trust the coaching staff or management, because there's no coincidence.
Gone, and also Tyler Lockett's gone. Their whole receiving core just got decimated overnight.
But there's no coincidence all this happened within the time frame that it did, right? Like, these players talk to each other, dude. Like, they become friends. There's no way that DK had no insight as to Geno may not be here, or as to they're gonna release Tyler Lockett. Like, so what the hell am I doing here? I'm chopped liver. Like, I'm sure that went into why he requested that trade. It's like, yeah, I'm getting paid well, but it's like, you guys are trying to start over. I'm not here for that. Like, I want to win. And I don't think they trust the coaching staff. It's simple as that. That's what it tells me there. And it's like, so they had no choice but to pivot. But man, yeah, I was confused by the move. If that's your reasoning, I get it for Geno Smith. Seahawks, I don't know. You guys are playoff-ish team, And now it's like, whoa, you guys are automatically in rebuild at this point.
I will say
they have
this
big rebuild.
big time. They just added another key piece on their defense right before the show. They signed DeMarcus Lawrence to a 3-year contract.
Surprised by that.
Defensive end. He's a very successful pass rusher in this league with the Dallas Cowboys, kind of on the back end of his career now. But him again going next to Leonard Williams at the 3 technique, that could be pretty fun to watch there at the defensive line. But again, if it seems interesting, it's like some of these guys that are or were key pieces, veterans, you're now letting go or you're trading away and all these things. It's like, well, what are we doing? We're not, and then but we're going to sign this guy at a big contract. It's just very interesting moves that I don't know if I'm following all that well. But that was, either way, that's a big pickup. That I wanted to pivot real fast. Let's go back to the quarterbacks in a second, but that leads me to say, DeMarcus Lawrence gone, Rico Dowdle gone. Now I understand that the Dallas Cowboys did make the signing at running back. Javonte Williams on a 1-year deal from the Broncos. I guess he may be an upgrade from Rico Dowdle. I don't know how we want to grade that, but the Ryan Clark earlier today made a joke like the Cowboys just don't care. Guys just leaving.
Yeah.
Those were his words. He's like, they just don't care. Like guys are just walking out the building.
It is what it is, dog. That's how the Cowboys are running with it.
yeah, that's the response to everything. It is what it is, dog. So
Yeah.
I just find it interesting. It's gonna be another weird all season where Cowboys continue to lose pieces, and not many signings. They signed their punter Brian Anger. Granted, he is a good punter, but Brian Anger to a 2-year deal. Signed Solomon Thomas, defensive lineman, to a 2-year contract, I guess, to replace him. Solomon Thomas, he never lived up to what he was supposed to be. High first round draft pick. So
in their defense, they did. Create some cap space, and it's still early. I know
it's true. It is early.
It's early. So, there could be still a lot more moves to be said. But yeah, what do you guys think about Justin Fields going to the Jets?
Real quick, it's not too early, dude. It's the Cowboys. As long as Jerry Jones is there, man, in all seriousness, they will never win. The man has he has a vice grip on everything that anyone does there. And unless he gets a say so, it's not happening. You can't win that way.
I don't disagree, but one thing I will say is over the course of the previous years, their roster has been good. And they have not put it together. So he did bring in some good personnel. And I'm not talking like 1 year ago or 2 years. I'm talking like consistently like years ago. They've had a good roster.
They won 12-4.
Oh, the problem is never them bringing in talented players. They don't know what to
I'm
do
just saying
with it.
everybody hates on Jerry Jones, but Jerry Jones brings in the players. He's not coaching the team.
Yeah, but if you're not letting the coach, right? If you're not letting the coach and you have imprints on everything that's being done, you can't operate, man. You hire people for a reason. Let the head coach. Let your defensive coordinator do defensive plays. Like you don't have to have your handprint on everything. Bringing in talented players, you're right. They do a good job at that, and whatever input he's providing definitely has helped. But step away at some point. Like everything's not about you. You shouldn't be at practice. You man. If I was an owner, I would never be at practice, dude. Like, hey, what's going on? All right, cool. Until something's not going on is when you're going to hear from me. Like, hey,
no, I agree
who do we need to fire?
I agree with that.
But
all I'm saying is that he's brought in a good roster. That's all I'm saying.
And I agree
they have had talent. They just haven't put it together.
And I agree with that. In terms of Justin Fields to the Jets, I honestly liked it for Justin Fields, man. I think that I don't know what it is. He gets a bad rap. I think a lot of teams are done with him, and I'm like, man, he hasn't even shown enough to be done with. But it's
he keeps getting He keeps getting another chance. So here it is again. So it's his opportunity to lose. Who's he competing with?
No, true.
Tyrod Taylor,
but that's why I like it for him, because he does get an opportunity. I didn't know that he would, honestly.
Me neither. I thought he was going to be signing as a second string, wherever you want.
Here's my thing with the Justin Fields signing, and I'm sure it was money. He probably got more money from the Jets, or maybe he just didn't have an offer from the Indianapolis Colts, but which we'll go there next with DJ. But I thought that this was a very appealing job for a player of his caliber or a Daniel Jones. You are competing for the first for the starting job. I understand that the Jets position is more of like a I won't call it a shoo-in, but you have a better shot at becoming the starter of the New York Jets than maybe the Indianapolis Colts because of how high of a prospect Anthony Richardson is. But that roster in Indianapolis, especially that offensive line, like
It's pretty good.
you could win.
Yeah,
Like they
it's pretty
can
good.
win with that team. And
Yeah,
the thing is that I'm afraid that now he's on the New York Jets. I just don't see that the New York Jets offense producing anything. So, I mean, I understand that they've had some weapons. I mean, Garrett Wilson wants out. Let's see if he stays or goes. Yeah, and then if he does stay, right, like they need other weapons. They need to be able to protect him. And
well, I think it's gonna be different.
We've
Like
seen things
right,
where-
like new coaching staffs coming in. I get it. The Jets are cursed, but I think it is like you said. It's an opportunity for Justin Fields that I wasn't expecting him to get. I thought he was being shopped for a second string quarterback, and that's that. This gives him a shot, and who's to say that the Jets don't draft a quarterback in this draft for their future? They very well could.
They could.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But yeah, to your point, when you mentioned DJ to the Colts, I think this gives everyone an opportunity to see Daniel Jones if he gets an opportunity to play with an actual offense. Because when he's been on the Giants, I mean, our whole offensive line has been decimated since he's been there. And I'm not saying that he was amazing or anything like that, but he'll get a better chance, in my opinion, being on the Colts.
It's not really an if. He will.
I agree.
That's what I'm saying.
He will get the chance.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Because Anthony Richardson, my God blessed him with a bunch of things. Passing wasn't one of them. Jesus Christ, that dude cannot hit an open target, man. And I'm sorry to say this. I never want to push a guy when he's down, but I'm pushing because, geez, man, it's been awful watching him. I think that was a terrible move that they made. I honestly don't know the difference between him and Jalen Monroe at this point. Like, I think they're the same guy, but one went way higher in the draft the one year, and the other one they're not even thinking about until the third, fourth round, if not later. Like, so I don't know.
Interesting.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
I agree. I don't see a difference in that in him as a prospect either, coming out of Alabama. And they're saying he's going to be a day 2, day 3 pick now. I mean, beginning of the year, college football year, they're saying he was one of the top prospects. And we realized, okay, probably not. And so I agree. I don't think that we're going to see too much progress from Anthony Richardson this year. And as a result, I think DJ, this is his opportunity. Just like you said, Justin Fields, this is it. You got to make it happen. I think that DJ, with all like the bad press and banter going on in New York with the Giants, he went and he got coached up over there in Minnesota. Great quarterback room. Now go put some of that product on the field in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I think he's got an opportunity to really reignite his career, kind of like a Geno Smith or Sam Darnold. It's his opportunity to lose. Again, it's his opportunity to lose.
And I think Daniel Jones isn't terrible. I just think the New York market was just too big for him. I think going to Indy,
the team was just so bad.
Low. Yeah, and I mean expectations too are super low in Indy. Like, they just go out and play, and I think he'll have some success there.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Absolutely, yeah. And now to pivot to some of the other positions.
Before we do that, can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
Just because in previous shows we had mentioned about the potential market for Daniel Jones in Miami.
Yeah.
And we talked about this also off air. And they wound up going with Zach Wilson. Interesting signing. I don't know.
I think that tells me that they're still all in on Tua. Whereas if you bring in a DJ or
it's more to compete,
that's like you're competing.
Okay, that's fair.
And I think that they're not set on saying like, all right, Tua might not be our guy. Like, they're still set on him. They just need to figure out a way to keep him healthy.
I don't disagree with that. My only
I'm not saying I agree with that. No. I think bringing DJ in would have been amazing for them.
Yeah, I agree. I'm saying I don't disagree. I agree with you in thinking that that's probably what they were thinking in Miami. But personally, I I want to succeed, but you need to bring someone in that can run your offense because there's been no proof that he's going to make it through all 17 games. And if he doesn't, we saw what happens with this Miami Dolphins team. It completely falters. It goes from an elite offense to a bottom 5 offense in the league. And unless you have conviction that Zach Wilson can be the guy to run your offense.
I believe Zach Wilson's deal was it was like $6 million, right? Is there a chance that he falls to a third string?
Maybe. I guess we see who else.
Is there a chance that they bring in like a Joe Flacco or something like that that doesn't get signed? And for what Flacco is, he's an incredible backup in my opinion. For like he had his faults on the Colts, but when he first started playing, I mean, he made the team look a lot better than when they had Anthony Richardson on the field. So yeah, I don't know. I don't love the Zach Wilson signing at all, but yeah, I don't know. To me, it tells me that they're still trying to pursue this Tua thing. But I agree with you. He hasn't been able to play a full year. So
I just think that you need someone in that locker room that can operate your offense. And for assuming he's going to go down, we hope it doesn't happen, but it's happened every year. Yeah. And you can't just give up on the season like you have in the previous 2 years. You literally just had to falter your entire year.
Yeah, that's why I feel like a veteran like a Joe Flacco or I think Jameis Winston wants a starting job, but if he didn't get one, like
Jameis is still out there, yeah.
You know what I mean?
For that, yeah.
Something like that.
What are your thoughts on that?
I can't see that. The latter. I agree with everything you guys said. No, I just don't see them bringing in another veteran quarterback. I see them potentially drafting someone later and filling that third QB
like
role. You just don't. Yeah, because you just don't pay a guy so early in free agency with that, right? Like at least I would weigh my options with all these other guys. Like to bring in Zach Wilson says that all right, I have my 1-2, and if
that's how I interpreted it. I interpreted it that way as well. Yeah. So that was my.
I agree with you though a little bit, where it's just like Zach Wilson is not as strong of a number 2 as I would have liked, considering how unhealthy Tua is.
Yeah, you almost need like a 1B. You know what I mean? Like, like a guy that has some level. It could be like a DJ, like a Justin Fields. You need to allocate funds to that backup quarterback position because if you don't have it, we know consistently now in Miami that entire team will falter.
Yeah,
and it's unfortunate. I mean, hey, listen, maybe Zach Wilson. I mean, he had some success last year when getting some snaps. Maybe he can do it again. We'll see.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I just wanted to go over some of the receivers. We mentioned DK Metcalf to the Steelers. We talked about Devontae Adams, and I guess the Rams as a whole is one team that I wanted to talk about. What is your guys' take on signing Devontae Adams and now releasing Cooper Kupp? Like, why not sign Cooper Kupp? Is it injuries?
Okay. Injuries.
It's got to be
plain and simple. Injuries. He hasn't. I don't remember the last time he's played a full season. What was it? 2 years ago? He said.
Yeah, when he won the Triple Crown.
Yeah. So injuries plagued them. I think with Devontae Adams too, you got to understand he was considering taking 2021. So yeah. So 4 years ago. And then, so not only injuries, but then Devontae was willing to take a hometown discount. He wanted to go back to California. That's where family's at. He has his family there. Their kids are. Yeah, I knew he was going to either sign to them or the Chargers. Well, not new, but I was leaning towards that way just because I know how he loves California. And once they did that, once they signed him, I knew it was completely over with for Cooper Kupp. Like there's no way keeping him 100%. For sure.
But I think you might find that the Chargers sign him.
He does want to stay. He said he did want to stay on the West Coast.
Joshua Palmer just signed elsewhere.
I mean, they could use a
wide receiver
opposite side, Lad McConkey. Some of the other guys wanted to touch on here. Milton Williams, we briefly talked about earlier in the segment. Didn't sound with the Carolina Panthers. That's what we all thought was going to happen. Patriots offered him more money and swooped in and stole him. We kind of talked about it. It might even be a blessing in disguise in terms of money for the Carolina Panthers.
1000%.
But big move on the other side for the Pats. Huge move for them.
Oh, for sure. And I'm happy that they did it. I'm actually, when I think about it more, dude, we already paid Derek Brown. There's no way we're going to give 2 D tackles. That's over $50 million a year. Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm actually glad that it fell through at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, some other big guys up front. Laramie Tunsil getting traded.
Yeah,
from the
big.
Texans to the Commanders. I mean, Commanders are spending money like crazy. They're all in. They're looking to sign guys left and right. They got Deebo Samuel a week ago. They're looking to make a huge splash, and I don't know. It's just going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
Listen, I know it's early, and I know the Eagles are the Super Bowl champs. I think Commanders are trying to make a name for themselves, and they're trying to tell you, hey, this is our year. And Eagles have lost a lot of guys, so they could very well, this could be what puts them over the hump and have them win the NFC East, if not the NFC.
Listen, I respect it because, listen, the Eagles are I understand that since, like, I think it was 2000 or 2004, no team has won 2 years in a row in the NFC East. It's like that ongoing, like, thing that's crazy. So, if, like, for example, this past year, it was the Eagles who won the NFC East. The year before that was the Dallas Cowboys. The year before that was the Eagles. And then the year before that was like the Commanders. And or I think it was the Washington football team because it wasn't even the Commanders yet or whatever it's been. It like flip flops every year. And then somewhere down the line, like 35 freaking years ago, maybe the Giants. But the point is, Eagles won. So history says they ain't going to win the division next year. There needs to be another big dog on campus. And you're not going to get there unless you're making these big moves. Cowboys, we just talked about, their roster is slowly declining. The Giants are in complete disarray. And with a scenario where a lot of guys don't want to go sign there based off of what we've all learned now from what occurred during the HBO production with Joe Shane. So
yeah, it's unfortunate.
It is. It's unfortunate. It's the thing. Like, guys don't want to deal with the New York Giants because of what they witnessed on how Saquon was handled. So
not only Saquon, even DJ. I mean,
DJ
they
too.
couldn't have handled it worse.
Everything was handled so poorly that guys don't want to be part of that. So this is it. Commanders are seeing this like, hey, we produced last year. Let's go and up the ante and make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, though, is Jaden Daniels going to experience, the sophomore blues just like our boy down in Houston?
I know you strongly believe in that. I'm not saying I don't, but I know that you're an advocate for that. So we'll see.
It just happens. I mean, what do you think?
Nah, it definitely is. I would say, I think it's Cliff Kingsbury that's their OC, right? I think that he's a genius when it comes to the offense. So I think he'll put him in positions knowing that this is the case. My thing is, they have to know these things, right? So like, you have to know this is coming. Let's try to simplify it for him. Let's make it easy. I know, like, he had a phenomenal, probably the best rookie season ever. But like, it's like,
yeah.
But it's like, let's, I'm expecting that, so I won't put him in position where he has to win us games. Let's run the ball, play great defense, and when we need them, we use them, knowing that typically quarterbacks take a step back in their second year.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of went down the rabbit hole there, but some of the other big guys to mention is Will Fry's guard from the Colts. He was one of the top guards in free agency. He signed with the Vikings on an $88 million deal. And the Bears, I don't even know what position to start with. They revamped their whole line. I don't even know where they're getting this money from. I mean, they're another team just spending money left and right. Giants should learn from this, fix their offensive line. But it's incredible.
Coach Johnson came in there. He's like, no, it starts up front. That's what we had in Detroit. We're going to make it here in Chicago, and that's how we're going to progress. And they're doing it.
Yep.
Listen, I'm starting to think that the salary cap is a facade because there's teams that are making moves, and I don't know how they're making them.
Yeah, I don't understand it. It's
like
unbelievable.
I
even the Vikings. The Vikings are spending so much money.
Did the NFL adopt like a luxury tax like they have in the NBA and in the MLB?
I don't know.
Because what's going on?
It makes no sense. Teams that don't have money, Chiefs are making moves. didn't think Chiefs. I thought Chiefs were in the negative, honestly. Like for years, we've been saying that, and then next, they're signing these guys and doing that. And I know that Chris Jones and Mahomes restructured their deals, but come on, not that much that it's going to give you room to sign certain, like all these players. Like it's crazy to me. I don't know how teams are doing this. Even for my Panthers, I was shocked that we signed all these guys mid-level, but like still, it's like I didn't think we had that much money. I don't know. Couldn't explain it.
Yeah, I don't know. It is very interesting.
Must have some crypto or something.
One other player I wanted to highlight was Evan Ingram going to the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a big impact to help that offense. Sean Payton knows how to, make an offense move. And with Bo Nix, I think it's going to be an interesting pickup for them.
How do you guys feel about that? Because he used to be a Giant.
Well, when he was on the Giants, he was so bad.
He's not the same player.
He was awful. When he went to the Jaguars, he was much better. When he was on the Giants, he couldn't catch a football.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, it was.
I was at a lot of the games.
You cannot blame.
I'm talking like
the New York Giants
ball's
offense
right here, and
for this.
he's dropping the ball.
Like drops.
His drops were insane.
And granted, he still had some on the Jacksonville Jaguars, but he was averaging things like 10 yards a catch. He was towards 1,000-yard seasons. I mean, closer. Like he was practically their leading receiver. Not last year because of the rookie and Brian Thomas, but like before that, he was pretty much the top receiver. It wasn't Christian Kirk after the big signing. So I found it very interesting. They let him go. And new regime down there in Jacksonville. And I think that this is going to be good for the Broncos. I think that a weapon, I mean, listen, coming out of the draft, 4'4", 40. I mean, he can move at a tight end, dude.
I mean, listen, if he plays the way he played at Jacksonville with the coaching staff under Sean Payton, he will make a big impact for this offense.
And Bo Nix, he had also an unbelievable rookie year that was overshadowed by Jaden Daniels because he had all those rookie records. Jaden Daniels wasn't there. We're talking as Bo Nix is rookie of the year because of how good his numbers were. So if he can produce like he did last year and grow from that, now adding in Evan Ingram as a very, very good receiving threat, mismatch heaven, right? Match him up to a linebacker. Sean Payton's very good at making those mismatches. We've seen it over the years where he can get guys open in space. If he can do that, I think that he can be a really good weapon for them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Same.
Definitely.
So, DeAndre Hopkins signed with, I believe it was a 3-year deal.
What is a 1-year deal?
It was a 1-year deal.
1-year
deal to the
1-year deal to the Ravens. This is him once again trying to go get a ring. I mean, he got all the way to the big game and couldn't get it done. We also know that he wasn't really even relevant. We joked that we think that his best days are behind him after this previous season or 2 seasons. He just hasn't gotten it done. This isn't as much about him signing with the Ravens as the Ravens signing him. Guys, there's other veteran wide receivers out there. I mean, it could have been just because of money, but come on. Let's go sign a guy that we know can do something for you. Like Cooper Kupp, we all know he's going to get released. Were you in the mix with Devontae Adams? I don't love this signing because I feel like you're signing a player to a position that's constantly of need for your franchise, and you're not getting your guy. They always happen to sign the subpar receiver. This guy's beyond his prime.
I mean, they still need to, get a big number one at some point, but I don't hate it. I mean, it's like pennies for them to see if they can splash and use him as a really good possession receiver for another year. I still think he's got hands. I think he had a terrible performance in the Super Bowl and on the Chiefs. I'm not going to defend him there. But I don't see what the Ravens have to lose in this signing. It's not like they're breaking the bank.
True.
I hate the signing.
Thank you.
I mean, it's not like I love it, but
I don't like it either.
Not breaking the bank.
My thing is, dude, you did nothing with Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson's not better than Patrick Mahomes. So, like, I need better than that.
I just don't see it. Like, you sign a guy that's a big name from his previous success to a position that we all know you need And there's all, I mean, it wasn't like there weren't legitimate veterans out there that can bring some level of spark to your team. I just named 2 good ones. You want to trade for DK? Go get DK. I don't know if you can afford him. I don't know what these contract
that's the
implications
thing.
are.
Is DK's contract was 150 million.
Right, so they couldn't afford DK, but
D-Hop
you're
6 million. You know what I mean? Like that's all I'm saying is
how
it's a
much?
money thing.
How much was Devontae Adams contract? You know, or if Cooper Kupp, he signed him to a 1-year veteran minimum. You know, the guy just got released. I just think.
But I mean, if it's a money thing, I get what you're coming from, Chris. Because
2-year deal for 46 million for Devontae Adams. I mean, look at the price difference. You know what I mean? It's a money thing. I'm telling you, it's a money thing.
You're probably right, but I just don't.
I get it.
I don't see the benefit.
I get it. The
I don't see what
position
we're
should be
gaining
addressed better for them. They still haven't had like, you know, a huge number 1 running or wide receiver with Lamar. I get that, but it's how their offense has been operating forever. And maybe they just don't value it as much as other positions. I don't know.
Yeah,
I know, but they should, because if they want to make it to the promised land, goddamn,
Yeah, I don't know.
help out your guy Lamar trying to get to the big game. We just haven't gotten there. I don't know. I just think that what we just said, if you need to address it, and I just hope that this isn't the Baltimore Ravens way of addressing that position. If it's just like a random signing to let him compete in training camp, fine. Okay, you throw $6 million at the guy, we move on. But
in all honesty, when I look back at the Ravens receiving core last year, I feel like Lamar had enough, man, between the tight ends, the running backs, the receivers.
Isaiah,
he had enough, man. Like, when are we gonna say it's Lamar? Because, dude, you have talent on that offense.
They had a lot of talent.
No, they got talent.
Does he need everything? Like, you had 2 tight ends, you had 2 running backs, you have a quality receiver, you have some complementary pieces. I get they're not like the best receiving corner in the league, but when you add all that together, come on.
No, I agree. I mean,
I hear you. I just feel like if you give him one more stud receiver that can get open and make plays,
he has a lot more than guys who he had more than
the New York Giants,
Josh Allen.
Yeah, well,
we don't give him that same excuse. I love Lamar, but I feel like we do give him a crutch. I don't know why that is, because it's like he'll have a much better roster than these other quarterbacks, but then we'll say he doesn't have weapons. And it's like, who the hell did Bills have that they made it so far? Like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of these guys were rookies. Injuries were plagued. They were plagued by injuries on that with that receiving core, and yet Josh Allen found a way to even be in the MVP conversation. But then Lamar gets all these players, should have won the MVP, and then it's like, oh, but he doesn't have. It's like the same guy that won the MVP doesn't have enough. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, all right, fair.
That's true. Yeah,
I'm not saying I like the signing. I'm just saying at what point
I definitely don't. I don't want the signing.
Yeah.
Signing was not for me.
I agree, and I like Lamar, man. I just think that we give him an excuse too many times as to why he's not getting it done.
Yeah, and I get
maybe he doesn't even fit Ravens kind of offense, like Chris was saying. They traditionally run pass team. Maybe he needs to be in a different kind of offense. You know, I don't know.
That's possible. Just one more I wanted to mention was the release of Von Miller.
We'll release of Von Miller. Then, I did want to mention the signing of Joey Bosa.
Oh, go for it.
Well, because that takes his place.
Yeah.
He ended up going to the Bills.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the Bills upgraded there. If Joey Bosa can stay healthy, I think Von Miller's on the back end of his career. I think that when he's playing, he does give you some production. So I think that there's still a place for him in this league. But as your primary pass rusher, I just don't think that I don't think he's the Batman anymore. I think he's now moved into the Robin role. And I think as a result, Joey Bosa, if he stays healthy, he still can be a Batman. The big question is if, because he can't stay healthy. But
I was surprised because I heard the rumors that he was going to sign with the 49ers to reunite with his brother. And then all of a sudden, he went to the Bills. So that was kind of interesting. I'm wondering if it was money or what, but it was only a 1-year deal to the Bills for 12.6 million, 12 million guaranteed. So I don't know.
I mean, the 49ers, they just gutted that roster. So I think that when am I about to go sign a 1-year deal to a team that just gutted their roster, or am I going to go sign a team that was 1 game away from the Super Bowl and they're still trying to find their way to get back with the league's current MVP?
Yep.
I think this is a move to go after
Trying to get a ring.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
I agree.
Yeah, same.
Well, that's going to wrap up today's show. We hope everyone enjoyed it. We're really just discussing all the exciting news for the opening day of the league. And what we're going to be doing in the upcoming weeks is we're going to be discussing some of the draft prospects for the NFL draft. We're going to be reviewing, doing a lot of our homework, doing some film study, and that's going to be what's going to transpire in our next show. So, and any other new league news that transpires between now and then, obviously, will be covered. But until then, we hope everyone enjoyed today's edition of the Docs Huddle. I'm Dr. Mikey B. For CJ the Sports Enthusiast, Dr. MJB. Have a great night, everyone.